Hi, this is Karen Smart, President of Tandem Technologies, the host for today's session. So for a formal welcome to everybody on today's call, I want to let you know, welcome, first of all, and this is our second session in Tandem Technologies Business Building Series. And what I mean by that is the partners of Tandem Technologies have selected several vertical industries where we've seen the most enhancements from a feature standpoint and products that utilize mobile technology. Tandem has learned from more than 25 years in the consulting and software industry that an educated client certainly makes better decisions. Tandem has a total of 6 locations across the United States with consultants that are not only certified software consultants, but also experts in the accounting and manufacturing arenas. So our intent today is to share information that might benefit your company and assist you in developing a more profitable and efficient system. We will share with you the evolution of the market and what's new in the manufacturing market. So for all of you on the call that work in or run a business that either manufactures products, puts together kits in a simple process, or perhaps you run a job shop, you should find some value in this interview today that's helpful. Today with me is our guest, Rod Hatcher. Say hi, Rod.
Good afternoon or good day.
Rod's the founder of TIW Corporation and has over 30 years in the manufacturing industry. Specifically, Rod has a degree in marketing research from Rider University in Princeton, New Jersey. He's the manager, or has been the manager, of marketing research and strategic planning at Ingersoll Rand Rock Drill Division, which is also, by the way, a Fortune 500 company. He's currently a board member of the Lehigh Valley Executive Forum, and he's currently the president and co-founder of TIW Technology, Inc., and has been for 30 years. So welcome, Rod.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, sure. I want to start off by asking the first question here, Rod. We'll just get right down to it. I want to be respectful of everybody's time on today's call, and thank you for being here. So, Rod, more than likely, many of the folks on the call today have never heard of TIW Corporation. You started the company in 1983, is that right?
Yes.
Could you give us a little background about how the company was started? And more interesting, there's always a story behind why somebody started into business, so I'd like to hear yours.
Well, my present story is that while I was at Ingersoll Rand, I was, as you mentioned, in the rock drill division, and I was responsible for creating the position of marketing research and strategic planning. They did not have any of that support in the past. At the time, IR led the world in the introduction of downhole drills that are used for drilling water wells, construction, and oil and gas exploration. Since my position included forecasting manufacturing technology, I saw the emerging importance of microcomputers and introduced them to engineering, production, and on into management. The experience of that process, while both painful and challenging, excited me. Thinking about it laid the foundation for what else might be possible and led to me starting to think about forming a company. Back then, I met Craig Benson, who was the team leader for a company that develops real-time software controls for the process and nuclear industries. And we decided at that time to get together, leave our jobs, and form TIW, which stands for Technology in the Industrial Workplace. And that's basically the kernel of how we got started.
Well, that's really interesting, Rod, especially you tell me, so Craig Benson, he was working for the process and controls for nuclear, so it sounds like he was in engineering and software development, and you were over in marketing. So I'm just wondering how those two, did you guys meet up at a lunch, or how'd you bump elbows at Ingersoll during that time?
Actually, he and I both attended the very beginnings of the AutoCAD package, and met ourselves at a seminar.
Okay, very good. So often I hear stories about software developers that begin initially by programming a solution for one client. Once completed, the developer realizes that others could use the same software in their organization. So they began to offer it to others. Was this the case for you?
Actually, because of my background, I knew the pitfalls of doing that right up front. So at first, because Craig had an extensive background in the process industry, we focused on developing emulation software that allowed microcomputers to be used as replacements for the high-end, very expensive graphical terminals that were prevalent in the process industry. And as I mentioned, we also became early adopters of AutoCAD. And then as we went along, companies like SBT emerged, and they offered the beginnings of viable microcomputer-based accounting systems. And I still use the term microcomputers because at that time, they weren't called PCs.
That's right.
When I took a look at what was going on and the many small companies that were quickly adopting these early accounting systems, it was pretty evident that manufacturing software was going to be rapidly following. So what Craig and I decided to do was to take part of the resources that we were starting to amass in TIW and develop a general purpose manufacturing product that we called Workshop, specifically for the discrete manufacturing industry, where I had the most background at Ingersoll Rand. We designed it right from the start to integrate with several of the growing accounting systems. And Workshop, or as it is now known as Alere Manufacturing, proved to be very successful and has been in the market now for 27 years.
Well, Rod, congratulations on that and for being in business and going through, obviously, some downturns in our economic cycle. It takes a lot for companies today to ride out that wave. And even as some of our manufacturing has left the United States, and manufacturing software, of course, took a dive, I'm sure, congratulations on being still here.
Thank you. I enjoy still being here.
Well, we're glad you are, and we've certainly had a lot of experience in working with TIW over the last 25 years, as I recall working with systems like SBT, which some of you may know as the old Sage Pro accounting software. Rod, I recall where technology was in 1983, and most software applications were still DOS-based, as you were mentioning before. And there were menus or options that would expose different screens, but you had to move back and forth between menus all the time. Was this true of your product in earlier years, or how did TIW keep up with the changes that occurred in the 90s with regards to transitioning from that window to the Windows platform?
Well, actually, what most programmers at that time did not have was the background that my partner Craig has. You don't understand real-time applications until you have to deal with controls in the nuclear industry. And so right out of the gate, we recognized the problem that you mentioned. And in 1989, when Workshop was introduced, we had what was known at the time as screen-on-screen technology at the DOS level. Now, of course, it's called MDI, or Multiple Document Interface.
Right.
Interesting times, because I remember our accounting partners not believing Workshop could do that in DOS, and that led to some very interesting product demonstrations.
I'm sure.
As the power of PCs grew and relational databases became available, and then finally Microsoft released Windows 3.1, which was, to all intensive purposes, the first viable Windows release. We could see that future, and we decided to sit down and develop a technology roadmap, kind of a new term for that era.
Righto.
That initial roadmap contained key building blocks like object-oriented programming, MDI, and kernel and shell architecture. I mentioned the kernel and shell because that paved the way to supporting customizations that allowed them to be inherited by new software versions, because we could see early on that people were constantly being trapped by new versions that was coming out that made their customizations incompatible. So the kernel shell approach allowed us to move as much code as we could into data tables. Why is that worth mentioning? While programming languages can come and go, data does not, and it is portable. The result is much faster development and the ability to take advantage of integrating new coding methods into Alere. And that first roadmap has become a living plan that we constantly update.
Well, that definitely sounds like you guys have put your heart and soul into this, and I know we just had taken you back to 1983 and 1989 here, and I want to jump ahead for a little bit to today and also in the future. When I was thinking about how we want to plan out this call today, I thought I would really like to be able to have a window into the future. And of course that's impossible, and especially as business technology changes on a daily basis. But there's some things about manufacturing that haven't changed. And we had words like Kanban and Kaizen, both Japanese terms, and just-in-time processing. And what I found today is that words like cellular manufacturing and quick response manufacturing are the new buzzwords for today. And basically what I found is that the multi-cellular areas of manufacturing are where employees are working in close proximity to multifunctional areas on the shop floor. And this allows those employees to independently to decide on the best way to complete a job on time. So it sounds like that part of technology for the manufacturing sector isn't really going to be something that software can accommodate. And so it appears that in order to accommodate this type of cellular manufacturing, also all the employees on that shop floor would have to be cross-trained so that everyone could do everyone else's job if the need arose. And that sounds like it might be a really expensive venture for the corporations of today. Rod, I want to jump ahead to the year 2050 and see what you think it looks like in the world of manufacturing. As we see manufacturing flowing back into the United States, we also see that some businesses are not positioning themselves to succeed in a future where greater opportunities need to be balanced by greater competition. So while we can be proud as America to have manufacturing come back into the United States, we really need to build a world-class system that allows us to compete, or we might be right back to China. How is Alere Manufacturing going to be able to handle that cellular manufacturing where employees are cross-trained and allowed to work in multiple departments or cells within the manufacturing floor?
An interesting question. The first thing is you have to be able to take your employees, as you said, and cross-train them, and you need a way of recording in the software what their qualifications are. And
that's right.
We've already built that into Alere in that when you can define different qualifications, and then you can define what individuals have achieved those qualifications. So that's already part of the base product. And partly what we're faced with is that the machines have become more sophisticated, whereas before when you had an operator work on a lathe, really that operator's sole focus was that lathe, and he really couldn't walk away from that lathe. Where now you have machines where you start an operation and the computer that's built into the machine takes over what you started and continues to run while you work on another machine nearby. And that's kind of the concept of cells, is they put like machines together so that you can start a job on one machine and turn around and start another job on another machine and turn around and start another job on another machine, and simply become more of a supervisor of the processes rather than the direct hands-on touching that was required in something that was a lathe, for example. So when, from a software standpoint, what you do is you define the capacity of a factory differently nowadays. It used to be that the capacity was defined by you had 3 different lathes, A, B, and C, or you had a drying room that you set up and people could stick things in the room to dry. Now what you define instead is a cell, which is a group of machines. and that cell then is assigned a capacity in the factory. So as we move along, the first step is going to be uh, presently they're arranging cells so they all produce in sequence one product. And as you mentioned, what's going to happen is these cells can all of a sudden start be doing multiple different products on multiple different steps at one time. So that's something.
Right. And that's where we need those highly skilled workers to come in and run those machines that are a little more advanced than yesterday's lathe.
That's correct. And part of that is going to be the intelligence that's built into the machines. So from the Alere standpoint, we will rely upon the growth of that intelligence in the machines. And then, since actually that fits into Craig's background, which was what they call drop controls, in that we'll be able to eventually interface Alere directly to the machines so that the machines will tell us when they start something and what operation they're on and what job they're running and how many they're making. And that'll feed automatically back into the software, which is really important because one of the most difficult tasks that manufacturers face today is getting their very expensive help or highly trained people to report on what they're doing. So as the machines evolve, that reporting will start moving more and more from the operator to the machine, which will then allow us to feed that into Alere.
Okay. Rod, just one more question, sort of on the lines of in the future. It's my understanding that remanufacturing is making a presence in the United States and also, for that matter, in other countries, which I know your product is positioned in some other countries outside of the U.S. borders. Remanufacturing, meaning taking and returning an item to its original specifications or making it better and then reselling that. And that's becoming a future source of revenue for many manufacturers out there. How is Alere planning on accommodating that sector of manufacturing?
Well, let's start from the premise that if you're going to remanufacture something, there has to be a high level of intrinsic worth in it. Otherwise, you wouldn't go through that process.
Yep.
If there's a lot of worth attached to something, then it's probably uniquely identified by a serial number or many of the other names that are used. So that means that the software has to be able to receive an item that has a special ID back into inventory, and then it has to issue that item to manufacturing to be worked on. It has to trace it through its work in process, and when it's done, it has to return it to inventory using the same serial number or same ID number. And we already have that built into the backbone of Alere, so we're already positioned to handle remanufacturing areas.
Awesome. So, Rod, in 2002, I'm going to jump back to the present now, although it's kind of fun to talk about the future. You released Alere Accounting when you had already developed and had the manufacturing and you'd become very successful with that. Why was it important to offer core accounting when you had already successfully built a manufacturing base?
Well, that requires me to get back into my Wayback Machine. Way back in 1999, we had a large and fast-growing workshop user base. And at the time, one of our principal partners went on the market for sale. And we were, by their own admission, driving 45 to 50% of their sales. So we decided, well, let's make them an offer because that would fit very well. We're already partners. What we found was that we couldn't come to terms. And what was funny was that a year later, they sold the company for about the same offer we made. In retrospect, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. What it did is it allowed us to apply everything we learned about developing applications without the albatross of obsolete programming methods and ideas. And also during that time, we found that our users and our dealers were becoming increasingly concerned and turning to us and asking us, how we were going to help them manage the future of their accounting solution, because it kept changing hands, which, the more times it changed hands, the less investment a company has in that product.
Sure.
Well, by then, our workshop manufacturing product had become quite powerful, and we came to the realization that future development actually ran the very real risk of being constrained by the limitations of our accounting partners' technology. So we stepped back, took a look at our roadmap, and decided to take everything we'd learned and apply it to developing our own accounting package. And that package became Alere. And by the way, Alere is an acronym for Assets, Liabilities, Equity, Revenue, and Expenses, and nobody can ever accuse us of being original. And by coincidence, in Latin, Alere means to grow, which was an interesting confluence of events there. And that is where Alere's symbol, the leaf, came from. And indeed, it's the reason why, with the introduction of Alere, we rebranded Workshop to bring it under the Alere umbrella.
Okay. I know the software industry has just been beat up over the years, and it seems like there's every year a new accounting software coming onto the market, and also a few exiting. So the fact that Alere is stable along with the Workshop is good. Rod, next question is regarding small and mid-sized companies, which I know Alere and manufacturing work very well for you in that industry. Or are there larger companies using your software as well? Maybe you can give the listeners a little bit of a cue on that, where your software is a good fit.
Yeah, actually, we have found over the last couple of years in particular that the larger companies are taking closer and closer looks at what we offer, mainly because the product, or the Alere product itself, has matured and it's expanded to incorporate a lot of vertical applications, such as CRM and real-time data acquisition and email alerts and notifications and document management and approval processes. Those are just a few of them. And because all that's built into the product, it's become increasingly appealing to larger and larger companies, mainly because they're looking to transfer all that expensive integration to one package that has a common look and feel. And that's actually why that's actually an item that became part of our roadmap, and it's why we renamed Alere to Alere Business Applications.
Okay.
And what we do is we offer Alere in modules that are based by functions. And the purpose of that was so the companies had a growth path. They could start with the basic building blocks, which is what most of the smaller, mid-sized companies do, and then they can add capabilities as they go along. About 2 years ago, as we became more and more appealing to the market, the principal division of the world's 43rd largest company, I love to say that, made the decision to adopt Alere for their North American operations. They had put together a team and looked for 10 years to find a package that had complete traceability and could inherit serial numbers during the manufacturing process. They make computer substrate wafers that produce 80% of the world's integrated circuits. Companies like IBM and Intel buy from them. And right now, you're probably running a computer with chips on it that has their product right now. A few months ago, they rolled Alere out to their European operations over a weekend. Think about the challenges over a weekend. Think about the challenges to do that for a moment.
Yeah.
So
we that found certainly says a lot about your software, Rod. If we can get something going over a weekend for the world's 43rd largest company.
Well, I always like to think it's only because of our software. But again, they did a good job on their side, and it speaks to the confidence they had in the software that they would do that.
Certainly.
So what we have found is that while Alere's sweet spot seems to remain with companies that have revenues from $5 to $50 million. These companies decide to use Alere to help them grow because they can add modules as they need them. And the other thing that people don't always speak to is that includes changing platforms, where they'll start on LAN, and as they grow, they'll move to client server. And then if they have multiple divisions, they'll possibly move to a private cloud environment. And all those platforms are part of Alere. When you purchase Alere, you get all those platforms built in. You don't have to be upgrading or adding something to the package. The smaller companies tend to start out with a 2-user version of the product. The standard product normally comes with 5 users, but we do offer a 2-user version. It has all the features, and it allows a small company to get in at a very low cost and have lots and lots of growth room.
Well, that's excellent, Rod. Thank you. And I'm sure that, obviously cost is a big factor when people are making purchases today. And to understand that your software can accommodate even the smallest manufacturer, a 2-user, that's fantastic, because sometimes the entry level for accounting and manufacturing systems is at the 10 to 20 level. And the smaller companies need some of the features that the larger companies do. So I'm very pleased about that. Focusing back on manufacturing, there are so many features in the Alere manufacturing modules. I know this from our users and the training that's provided to them by the Tandem consultants. But could you share the Alere manufacturing modules in a nutshell?
The short version is that basically when you look at manufacturing, it has 3 areas of responsibility. There's production, there's engineering, and there's logistics. And you'll usually find them in one form or another as separate departments in a mid-sized manufacturer. Production includes things like an order module that make up the work orders and all the transactions to track them, and a cost module, which consists of planned, actual, and forecasted job costings. In the engineering area, they're usually responsible for developing routes, which are instructions for making things, and BOM, which include bills and basic material planning. In the last area, logistics, there is a machine module, and that defines factory capacity and maintenance tasks. And then there's part of logistics includes scheduling, or a schedule module, which involves direct shop floor planning. How's a work order going to proceed across the shop? Where's it going to be on what days and at what times? And then they are also responsible for the high end of that, which is plan. And plan is designed to handle advanced material planning, which includes synchronous manufacturing, which I hope a little later we'll have time to get back to. But anyway, built into the backbone of manufacturing, besides these fundamental 8 modules or so, built into the backbone are document management and hyperlinks and email alerts and notifications, and time and labor management, labels, data acquisition, logins, system tools, maintenance tools. So all those things that are normally vertical packages that you have to spend extra for are actually part of the base product of Alere.
That's fantastic. And though you're right, having a document management system, are you kidding me? That is a separate solution for almost all of the products I'm aware of on the market today. And that it usually has a price tag starting out at around $15,000. And that doesn't even include your scanners. So the fact that you've already got a document management capability there built in and at no cost, wow. So Rod, if I had a job shop and I make products to order, what modules would I need, and why would Alere manufacturing be a perfect solution?
Well, from a job shop perspective, their very first requirement is extreme flexibility.
That's right.
That means that that handling constantly changing routes and material
Yep.
lists and schedules is a way of life with them. And they need a way to record and manage that all. And that's why we designed Alere to be what's called transaction based. Um, Quickie overview of what I mean by transaction based is best given by examples. If you have multiple people spend time on a job, you record their labor transactions. If there are material changes to a job, you make material transactions. If they have scrap, you record a scrap transaction. If a route changes to include rework or repair, you make a route transaction. If the job gets delayed, you rerun the schedule to get new transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So transactions basically keep track of it all and handle the costs that are associated with them. So it gives the small job shop or even large job shop a nice, clean way of tracking it all and keeping the costs under control. So I would tend to recommend the base manager module, an order module, a route module, and a cost at minimum. If they find that if they're a bigger shop and they find they need to add preventative maintenance and they need to schedule their floor, then they can add a machine and schedule module. If they get large enough and they have to keep track of bills of material, then they could add BOM and plan for their material planning. So those would be my recommendations.
Okay. And of course, do I need to purchase your accounting software in order to have those functions?
It depends on the function. Once you get into the materials planning side of it, then really you do need to have an accounting package that's going to give you a strong inventory control, because inventory rightly belongs under accounting, not manufacturing.
Yeah, that's right, because you've got your costs of inventory coming in and landed cost and things of that matter, which we could get off onto a whole other topic on landed cost, which I won't do. What if I was a manufacturer of pool tables? I don't play much pool, but I have in the past, and that's probably why I don't do much of it today. I might make them to order with options similar to a job shop, but different. Can you tell me what modules that would need, and why would you recommend Alere Manufacturing as the best fit if I were making pool tables?
It's interesting you should choose pool tables, because one of our customers is one of the largest pool table manufacturers in the world.
Okay,
and,
well, I did not know that.
What it fits into is one of the primary strengths of Alere, and that's that Alere supports what's called modular and variable bill structures. A modular bill, a standard bill is an item you're making and a list of what it takes to make it, like ingredients to make a cake mix. A variable bill is a bill where you say, okay, I have a piece of cable, and when I use it, ask me how long I want to cut that piece of cable.
Right.
And a modular bill is a bill that says, okay, it's basically a list of questions. For instance, in a pool table, it would be, all right, what style pool table do you want? Do you want avant-garde modern, or would you like a colonial look to your pool table? And what color felt would you like on it? And how thick would you like that felt? So what a modular bill is, gives you a way of asking questions. And that allows products like pool tables that have many, many options, and those options have dependencies, to use only one single bill. And this ends up saving a huge amount of engineering and maintenance time, and it makes it easy to add options in the future, because if you have salespeople in your company, as most of us do, we all know that they will promise anything, and it's up to engineering to deliver. So your bill has to be quite flexible.
Right.
A side benefit of that modular and variable approach that we have, which we practically invented it for the industry, is that the user is basically building support for a sales order configurator when they develop a bill of material. Because that bill of material has to be flexible to ask those questions, That's the exact same process that someone entering an order will go through. So you build a material, when you build or develop a bill of material, you are intrinsically providing support for a configurator. So for the pool table manufacturer, I would recommend just basically starting with a manager and order and BOM module to get started. And then as we did with the job costing, they could add other modules as they're required and as they grow.
So, Rod, there are companies that really don't manufacture anything. They buy individual items, but they sell some of them in a kit, for instance. Let's say they sell books, but on occasion they bundle the volumes in a set. So I think Harry Potter comes to mind on that one. There's several volumes in that whole series. The sales order configurator would be a great solution for them, right?
Yes.
Can you share how
that is?
Work?
Well, as we kind of mentioned when we talked about the pool manufacturer, one of the build types we support is called kits. And of course, a kit, instead of a list of components, is going to be, in this case, a list of books where each of the item is you're basically packaging a group of finished goods together rather than getting a list of components to make something. And
right.
That is called a kit bill. And with the use of the modular and variable bills of material, basically when a sales order is entered using a kit part number and that sales order is accepted, the kit item is placed on order automatically so that you see that it's required in inventory. The list of books that make up that kit are automatically allocated in the inventory. And then when the kit is shipped, you have a pick list that says, go pick these books. Those books are issued from inventory. The kit is automatically received in stock, and it's shipped all in one step. And that's a nice, neat, wrapped-up solution to what can be a complex problem. Now, what's unique is the kits in Alere, because you could use modular and variable, can be configured, just like we discussed for the pool table company. And that means practically that when a kit is being ordered, you can actually choose from a list which books to make up the kit and their quantities. And you can take a BOM kit, that single BOM structure, and you could assign it many different finished good part numbers that's dependent upon how it is configured. So you have one bill and many finished good part numbers. Now that means that entering one of these pre-configured part numbers on an order will automatically select which options and quantities to take. It'll produce a pick list of those books that make up the kit. On the other side of it, if you're using a sales order to configure which books go in the kit, you go through the configuration process and it looks up for you what is the finished good part number to go with that kit and automatically puts it on a sales order for you. So you kind of get your warm and cold milk at the same time there.
Right.
But the point to remember is that one BOM can support many different finished good part numbers instead of having many bills to support all the different choices.
Right.
And this goes beyond kitting with the books. What it basically means is that your bills can be more accurate and easier to create and maintain while allowing room for future changes.
Right. Because
And
instead of building another bill of material, I might want to just take one of the books out of stock, or maybe that we don't have the book anymore. So we want to take it out of the kit build.
So if you were building a pool table or you were doing kits, one of the things they teach you very early on in the manufacturing is, look, if you make a mistake on a bill of material, you really have two mistakes.
That's right.
First, you've just ordered the wrong material, and secondly, the right material has not been ordered. And
how true.
You will find that those two mistakes, generally in our experience, can increase a company's inventory by a very unnecessary 5 to 8%. So making mistakes on bills costs you directly in the money that you have to invest in inventory.
That's correct.
So that's the importance of having that kind of structure.
Well, Rod, I want to bring up something else about today's standards and how we're moving to this mobile environment and on the go. Today, we all expect an immediate response, up-to-date information with minimal steps along the way to get our jobs done. For instance, in the past, even my business, I would go on site, perform services, write everything down, take the document back to my office, update my internal work order with the problem and the resolution, and then hand paper to my accounting staff to do the billing. So it might take days to get bills out. And actually, I think I remember it taking a full 30 days. We wouldn't do billing until the end of the month. Today, clients are looking for efficient systems where information is entered once and available almost immediately. How does the use of handheld devices and your data acquisition module, combined with your software reduced steps, minimized errors, and creating a more efficient system?
Well, Karen, that's what we call a loaded question. Here's the short answer. A device like a tablet can be wirelessly connected to the internet and act as a remote terminal. And that will give you real-time, full access to Alere, just as if you were sitting back in your office. So that means if you want to take orders at a trade show, bring a tablet. If you would like to use barcoding to enter whatever it is you're selling at the trade show, use an app to turn your tablet or smartphone into a barcode reader. If you're sitting out there saying, I don't have an internet connection, well, think again. You've got a smartphone, and every smartphone I saw will allow you to set up a Wi-Fi hotspot.
That's right.
So just having a smart device and a tablet could give you real-time access to anywhere in the world your smartphone can reach. It's pretty much that simple.
Right. Rod, what other features are unique to Alere manufactured?
Unique features. Well, I don't think we have enough time today. We already discussed the power of modular and variable bills. That's very unique to us. Perhaps the biggest single feature is that Alere allows small to mid-sized manufacturers access to planning tools that have been previously out of reach for them, much too expensive, or simply not available. An example of that would be synchronous manufacturing, which I threatened to talk about.
Yes, you did.
And that is a case where, in the classic sense, in every manufacturer, there is a disconnect between material planning and a shop floor schedule. You run your MRP, it doesn't really know what your shop floor schedule is. You run your shop floor schedule, it's not connected to your MRP. So, in short, what Alere can give you through synchronous manufacturing that we have built in is that you can get a list of materials to pick for a job that are required for, say, Operation 40, and that operation and job is scheduled to be done on XYZ Work Center on Wednesday at 3 p.m. So synchronous manufacturing allows you to integrate your material planning with your shop floor schedule. It's a very advanced form of material planning. And more importantly, it can be done without the user having to have an advanced Apex certification to manage the tools to do that. It runs just by selecting it off the menu and say, include my shop floor schedule, and you have synchronous manufacturing. That's probably the best and most unique feature that we have. It's real-time planning power that's easy to use and, most importantly, very affordable. Probably the next, to keep the list short, the next unique capability that we have is that you can take any Alere data, either in the manufacturing or accounting side, and you can publish that to the cloud. What that allows you to do is that gives your people and maybe your clients, and we have 2 clients that do this, it gives them virtual real-time access to the information on their jobs. And then we talked earlier about what's going to happen in the future. Well, you're not going to send purchase orders to suppliers. By being able to publish data to the cloud, your suppliers can have access to that data, and they can know in advance what materials are going to be required to keep your company functioning. So rather than focus on the nitty-gritty, just those 2 unique features bring both to the small company and the very largest company capabilities that probably they don't have today.
Right. Okay. Good answers, Rod. So let me ask you this. How do you decide what the manufacturing vertical needs are going to be in the future? And how does this specifically help you with coming out with new products or features for Alere manufacturing?
Well, we watch the ECM market, and ECM stands for Enterprise Content Management. And that's a umbrella term covering document management, web content, digital asset management, workflow, and it includes business-to-business activities. And the reason that we watch that market, because it's growing at a better than 18% compounded rate per year. It is a huge market. And people participate in that market when they buy smartphones and use their tablets and use their laptops and all the other devices that are now available. What we see is that the U.S. is very fertile ground for the innovation and adoption of the trends in technology in the ECM market. And that's a primary reason manufacturing is strongly coming back onshore. And that is that ECM results in very fast rising productivity and is producing cost savings that are significantly exceeding the attractiveness of the low labor rates that companies move to, reasons they move to offshore. And with that in mind, that's where we really feel that the future of verticals is. And it's why we built document management and hyperlinks into the backbone of Alere. Hyperlinks, as we probably all are aware, they're the real heart of the World Wide Web. And they provide a way of easily accessing related data, either internally or externally, with just a click. For manufacturers, that means things like CAD drawings, machine maintenance information, documentation of production processes, and so on, can be integrated into their software, something that they pay a lot of money to try and do now. With Alere, that essentially gives manufacturers an infinitely expanding platform to integrate key information along right beside their production planning and execution. As a matter of fact, several years ago, because we watch this market so closely, we started a development effort to allow companies to selectively publish data to the cloud. And that's a topic, I think maybe it was perhaps 2 or 3 years ago when we had a dealer roundtable that we presented to the dealers that were at that roundtable.
Yep.
The result of that is what we call the mobility module. And that module is the way that you select what data to publish to the cloud and to control who can see it. That data helps companies keep their web presence fresh. You can export drawings, you can export layouts, you can export pictures from your manufacturing system directly to your website to show what a new product is going to look like. And it provides it allows people to develop inexpensive apps that they can connect their workforce, their customers, and their suppliers in ways that just simply weren't possible or even thought of before. We have the basis for that technology today, and we are continuing to develop it to expand Alere's capabilities. And that is where we see the future of vertical markets. So right now we have underway a development program to build tool sets that users or dealers can easily employ to develop the develop the portals to cloud data using mobile devices rather than paying thousands of dollars to have a specialty programmer do that for you. A good example of that would be present we have an Alere sales app that provides a very good look into how that works as a portal to the cloud data. So kind of summing it up, we see that maintaining business data stored in the cloud, not necessarily running your accounting system from the cloud, but maintaining selective business data and storing it to the cloud, and customizing access to it. That's the real future of verticals, and that's a direction we're already down that path a fair bit.
Well, Rod, those are a lot of features. We've talked about a lot of functionality today with your software. I know that we've provided all of our participants on today's call with a full product packet that includes a product tour CD. Can our attendees also download a trial of the software, and what can they do with that, Rod?
Yes, it's pretty straightforward. Doesn't cost you a thing. You go to our website at www.tiwcorp.com and simply follow the links to either accounting or manufacturing, and you'll see in a left-hand pane a link to trial packages. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a page where it can be downloaded. When it's downloaded, give us a call and request a serial number and a 30-day activation key. And there are two items that are necessary to install the package. But the trial package is the full Alere application. It is only limited by the number of records that can be entered, an expiration date, and 5 users. But you get to see the entire package with all of its documentation. Okay.
Rod, thank you. And for those on the call, we will be doing a full demonstration of the product on November 10th at 1 p.m. If you have specific areas that you would like us to demonstrate or focus on, enter that in the chat window right now, and we would be happy to take those questions into consideration and make sure that Rod addresses those when he's doing the demo. If you haven't signed up for the demo, we will be sending out a reminder tomorrow with a link to sign up. Rod, I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have any closing remarks before we close today's interview?
A couple, thank you. One of the things that we're constantly faced with Alere is that when you recite a list of features, they really don't convey the concepts behind Alere and the kind of dynamic environment it creates. So we really recommend that people take a little time to physically see it demonstrated by someone at Tandem. We're pretty sure that it's going to change your perception about what software can do. And I want to thank you, Karen and Tandem, for the opportunity to present Alere to your audience.
Well, thank you, Rod, and thank you again for all the listeners that have continued to stay on our call today. On behalf of all of us at Tandem, thank you for attending. Again, we will be sharing a demonstration on Thursday, November 10th at 1 p.m. We will try to limit the time to 45 to 60 minutes, and we'll have a question and answer session that will be live at the end. This also will be up on our website, today's recording. If you have other employees that you would like to hear our interview today, we'll be posting this back up on the TandemTechnologiesLLC.com website. Thank you again, everybody, for attending. This concludes today's call.